Uh-oh, he's in trouble. Tung Sahur is in some serious trouble because the JPMorgan lawsuit, it just blew up in his face. Because if you remember, this guy, he accused a top executive at JPMorgan for turning him into a slave. And just hours before his hearing, his lawyers dropped him. So clearly, things aren't going too well for him. Like, you would assume that things are going pretty badly when your own lawyer quits on you the morning of court. But if you don't know what's going on, a former JPMorgan banker named Chirayu Rana, he filed a lawsuit accusing executive Lorna Hajini of basically turning his life into a Wall Street psychological thriller. He claimed she threatened his career, made racial comments towards him, and tried to coerce him into becoming what he literally described as a slave. So what happened? Well, JPMorgan denied these claims, Hajini denied everything, and reports started questioning parts of Rana's story. And suddenly, the entire case turned into like both sides accusing each other of completely lying. And now, things just keep getting worse because Rana just walked into one of the biggest hearings in the case so far and immediately got hit with multiple disasters back to back. So first, JPMorgan came out and basically said they investigated the allegations internally and found no evidence supporting them. And the bank also claimed that Rana refused to fully cooperate with investigators. And meanwhile, Hajini completely denied everything, and her legal team even argued that she'd never been in some of the locations where the alleged assault supposedly happened. And from there, the entire case basically turned into a credibility war because the more reporting that came out, the more bizarre things around Rana and his story also was discovered. Like, there was reports that he allegedly lied about his father passing away so he could take time off of work. There was also allegations that he had previously described a nearly identical workplace abuse story to an AI legal chatbot, except in that version, the company was Morgan Stanley and the alleged abuser was a man. So, to say this is a mess, that's putting it lightly. But the latest disaster started in the morning of a major court hearing in New York. And dude, I mean, the timing couldn't have looked worse if you like scripted it on television. Because just hours before Rana was supposed to appear in court, his own attorney supposedly filed paperwork asking to withdraw from the case. And this isn't just any attorney either. This is Daniel Kaiser, a pretty high-profile lawyer who previously represented Jeffrey Epstein accusers and had been publicly defending Rana for weeks. And this is the same lawyer who'd been telling reporters that people criticizing Rana's story would supposedly be embarrassed once all the evidence came out. So why is he suddenly dropping the whole case the day of the hearing? I don't know, but obviously things get worse because now Rana seemingly represented himself pro se. Bro's suddenly pulling a TikTok psychic going up against JPMorgan. But obviously, like, lawyers withdraw from cases sometimes. Like, that alone doesn't automatically mean that someone's guilty or lying or doomed or anything like that. Technically, there are a whole bunch of reasons attorneys can drop clients. But dude, the morning of the hearing, it just doesn't look good, especially when the lawyer is someone known for representing high-profile victims. Like, it just doesn't, something's off here. Maybe the attorney, doesn't think he's a victim anymore, but who knows? That's all just speculation. So now we have, I guess, Tung Sahur just solo queuing right now, going in against JPMorgan themselves, and also a countersuit from Lorna Hajini. But this hearing itself was pretty important, especially for Rana, because he was trying to continue to sue under the name John Doe instead of using his real name in public court filings. And his legal team argued that because the lawsuit involved, I guess, assault and harassment, he should be allowed to keep his identity protected. But Hajini's lawyers and JPMorgan both came in swinging very hard against that whole request because their argument was basically, how can this guy stay anonymous when the entire internet already knows who he is? Which is my exact reaction because, like, we've already made 2 videos on this guy at this point. I'm not just gonna randomly think, oh, this lawsuit is about someone else. It's a different Tung Sahur. Like, honestly, like, who are we trying to trick here? Like, just so much of this case just doesn't make sense. So, according to Hajini's lawyers, Rana himself has already publicly spoken about the case in media interviews. So, the judge ended up actually citing against him. So she reportedly said that you can't put the genie back in the bottle. And I guess quick clarification here because this part got weirdly confusing even in the actual reporting. So a lot has happened in this case over the last few weeks. And honestly, like, I was kind of waiting to make this update until the hearing because I genuinely thought we were about to get Sharon and Rana representing himself in from court, which honestly, I was kind of excited to see how all that would go down. But technically, even though his lawyer filed paperwork trying to quit the case that same morning, the judge had not officially approved that withdrawal yet. So during the hearing itself, Daniel Kaiser was still technically Rana's attorney. So he was there, even though he was actively trying to leave the case at the same time. So interesting situation. I mean, what an incredible vibe of the courtroom. I should have actually been there. Maybe I'll lock in and show up for the next one. Because now we have a dude who basically the entire internet thinks is lying, and his attorney apparently doesn't want anything to do with him, but he's also stuck in the courtroom defending him. That's something worth seeing. But apparently during the court appearance, his attorney, which, for right now is still Daniel Kaiser, he seemed completely unprepared once the judge started pressing him for actual legal precedent. And at one point, the judge reportedly asked whether there were any examples of someone being allowed to stay anonymous after their identity had already become public. And at this point, Rana's lawyer basically had to admit he didn't have one. And this is not really the kind of moment you want happening in front of the judge when your entire argument depends on convincing the court that you deserve, special protections. But meanwhile, Hajini's legal team was basically arguing that the entire situation had become very unfair to her because while Rana was trying to stay protected as John Doe, her real name was already being blasted all across the internet. And I mean, hey, that's a fair point. And this is where the story kind of just gets sad because regardless of who ends up being right in court, this case has already pretty much destroyed both of these people's lives publicly. Hajini's lawyers claims that, she's been dealing with nonstop harassment ever since the lawsuit went viral. And they even submitted examples of some of the emails that she was allegedly receiving during all these allegations. And yeah, it's safe to say some of these messages are insane because here you have apparently strangers sending her graphic messages, threats, and telling her to hurt herself. And in my previous video on this, I was saying we're pretty much guaranteed to see some sort of countersuit from her. And well, that's already happened because Hajini has officially escalated things even further by filing a countersuit against Rana himself. And the countersuit is basically just her side going completely scorched earth. Hajini's legal team basically argued that Rana should not get any special treatment while her reputation was getting publicly obliterated online every single day since all these allegations dropped. And Hajini is basically arguing that Rana intentionally weaponized public attention to destroy her reputation. And according to her countersuit, she claims the allegations were entirely false, malicious, and fabricated, and were created for personal enrichment. Her lawyers also accused Rana of trying to extort millions of dollars from both her and JPMorgan by turning the case into a public scandal. So now they're no longer just denying allegations, they're now actively painting Rana as someone who allegedly created an entire fake story for leverage and money. And at one point, the filing even claims that Rana allegedly made an eerily similar fabricated allegations against a supervisor at a previous job. Now, to be fair, that specific claim has apparently not been independently verified yet, but it's interesting that that's now been included in the filings of this countersuit. And also, a reminder that JPMorgan apparently did try to settle this privately before the lawsuit exploded publicly, because according to the bank, they offered him $1 million. And apparently the settlement discussion wasn't because they believed the claims. They said they wanted to avoid any reputational damage of a massive public legal war involving one of their executives, which makes sense because, if you Google JPMorgan right now, this lawsuit's kind of everywhere. So, I mean, it's just not a good look for the bank, and that could also be used for another countersuit from the bank as well. So, I mean, I don't think Rana is in that good of a spot right now. But again, reportedly, JPMorgan offered him about $1 million, but Rana was reportedly holding out because he wanted way more. And some reports were saying that he wanted north of $20 million. So, wow. Dude, if he pulled that one off, that would have literally been a bank robbery. But now the entire thing is essentially heading toward what can easily become the ugliest stage yet, because now Hajini is suing Rana back for defamation, JPMorgan is openly backing her side, and the court has officially stripped away the anonymity Rana was trying to keep. Meaning, from this point forward, this will only get more and more public. If Rana somehow proves these allegations were true, this becomes one of the biggest workplace abuse scandals modern Wall Street has seen. But if these claims are completely false and, collapse in court, this is going to be really ugly for him. Currently, the next court date is June 23rd, and I'm definitely going to be interested to see if Rana will be representing himself or not. Most likely he won't. I mean, it would be entertaining if he did, but I don't think he will. But let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Peace.